Hello and welcome to yet another video by Pale Blue Thoughts. Today we will be discussing woo-woo medicines in detail. Clubhouse is the new social media platform that is getting to be quite popular these days, and I have actively been part of it for the last 2 weeks or so. Over the weekend I attended a discussion organized by Essence Global on the very topic that we are discussing these days. The topic was whether you need alternate systems when modern medicines are already present. It was an interesting discussion, and I will try to bring you insight from that after getting permission from the organizers. Meanwhile, let us continue our investigation into woo-woo medicines. One website that I would recommend for anyone who wants to distinguish between science-based medicine and quackery is Quackwatch. The website deals in detail many aspects of how woo-woo healing systems operate. If you are interested in knowing more about woo-woo medicines, this is one of the best places to look. Now, it was in the 1970s and 80s that a new term was coined called alternative medicine. It was an umbrella term that locked all kinds of healing systems together. The impossible remedies right along with the implausible, the untested healing systems placed right along with the ones that had already been tested and proven not to work. Now, in the last 2 decades of the 20th century, we started to hear terms like complementary medicine and more recently, integrated medicine. Alternative medicine may be used alone as an alternative to science-based medicine, or people may use both alternative medicine and science-based medicine at the same time. Complementary medicine, by definition, is never used alone. It is always used along with science-based medicine to complement the conventional treatment. Integrative medicine, on the other hand, implies that you don't just use alternative medicine along with conventional medicine, but somehow integrate 2 or more into one unified system of practice. This is one of the most common things that I have heard people say during the discussions that I have attended at Clubhouse. They say that since these alternate systems have been in use for centuries now, and many people believe in these things, let us integrate all of them and call it integrative medicine. But the problem here is that there is really no such thing as alternative medicine, as there are only treatments that have been tested and proven to work using scientific methods and treatments that haven't passed the scientific tests. If a treatment has been proven to work, we wouldn't call it alternative medicine, but we will call it medicine. I mentioned this as a joke in my previous video, but here I am making a serious statement about the very same thing. A curious and yet interesting fact is that if you seat the practitioners of all these woo-woo systems around a table and ask them to debate about which one of their systems is better, you will see that they don't have a problem with each other's systems. They never seem to fight amongst themselves. You never hear debates between naturopaths and homeopaths. You may have seen Ayurvedic doctors recommending homeopathy or acupuncturist supporting a chiropractic. Now, that can't be right. Some of these things are incompatible with each other, but for every item on the list of woo-woo medicines, there are people who are convinced that it works. And yet, practitioners of one system sometimes incorporate the practices of another system with no problems. They don't seem to care that if the beliefs behind the other system were right, then the beliefs behind their own system would have to be wrong. One of the main things that all woo-woo systems base themselves on is the principle of one true cause for the basis of their healing systems. Most of the times, if not all, these one true causes are imaginary. Now let us take some common examples. Homeopaths believe that all diseases are caused due to miasms or imbalance in the vital force which is supposed to exist in all of us. Chiropractic claim that all diseases are caused when spinal bones get out of alignment and then interfere with nerve functions. Ayurveda claims that all illnesses are caused due to aggravated tridoshas of Vata, Pitta and Kapha. Acupuncturists claim that it is due to an imbalanced force called Chi. Energy healers like those practicing pranic healing and Reiki attribute all illnesses due to an issue with the body's energy fields, whatever that is. Faith healers claim that you get ill because you have a lack of faith. All of these may seem the same to a common man, but these are all based on different principles and are not in sync with each other. Well, that statement is not entirely true. There is one thing that is common in all of the one true cause proposed by woo-woo systems, that they are all imaginary. They don't exist. That said, when scientists encounter two mutually exclusive claims, it bothers them as they experience something called as cognitive dissonance, and they try diligently to find evidence to reject one of the compelling hypotheses to eventually reach a consensus. Alternative medicine pseudoscientists just do not seem to be bothered by cognitive dissonance. They are content to look for evidence to support their own chosen treatment, and they blatantly disregard any competing claims. They go where they want to go and not where the evidence points to. Whereas each claim to know the one cause of disease, they do not seem to be interested in looking for the one reality. So what is the one cause of diseases as far as modern medicine goes? They do not have just one, they have 9. This is represented by the acronym Vindicate. I do not want to elaborate on this at this point of time, but you can look it up. Lately, we have seen a revival of these woo-woo medicines in some Western countries, while in India, it never left at all. So what caused this attitude change? Why does CAM suddenly become so popular? There is no simple answer, but I think there are several reasons for the trend. For one thing, science had a good run of outstanding successes. Antibiotics cured pneumonia, and we eradicated smallpox and polio, and we transplanted kidneys and livers, and we expected science to go on to cure cancer and every other disease, and when that didn't happen, we got frustrated. We are healthier now, and now we want a perfect health. Absence of disease is no longer good enough for us. We are always greedy for more. Our average life expectancy has increased since science came into being. Instead of dying young due to diseases, we live into old age, and we develop the diseases caused due to aging like arthritis, heart disease and cancer. I have discussed this in my video on why we see so many patients today. I would refer you to watch the video if you have not. So, prosperity is increasing. No longer do people have to worry about where the next meal is coming from, and that is due to science. How can I say this? Because these alternate medicines were there even when our life expectancy was in the 20s and when the whole world was under the scare of pandemics, and these treatments did not do anything to curb them. It was science which developed vaccines and antibiotics which enabled us to fight off the pandemics then, and it is continuing to do it even now in 2021. So how do most people select a health system? I asked one of my friends who is well educated and intelligent and skeptical about most things, and asked how he would choose between two medical systems, and he replied that he will try pretty much anything if it meets these 3 criteria. 1. Someone recommended the treatment to me. 2. It sounds plausible to me. 3. It doesn't sound harmful. He is willing to take anecdotal evidence as a measure of reliability. This is how most people choose a medical system. Science is not on the list of criteria for choosing something as important as a health system. When I asked my friend why he does not look at testing methods and whether it is scientifically proven, he told me that science does not know everything. He also told me that whenever he feels a cold coming, he drinks a herbal tea and he hasn't had a cold for the last 3 years. So I told him that I do not drink that tea. In fact, I do not take anything when I feel a cold coming, and I also have not had a cold for 3 years. So if he accepts his evidence that herbal tea made him avoid a cold, then he should accept my evidence that taking nothing avoids colds too. Aren't they the same? This is the problem of personal experience. It is not reliable. CAM is considered more natural than conventional medicine, and people find this very appealing. This is a logical fallacy called argumentum ad naturam, or the naturalistic fallacy or appeal to nature. Now, natural is not always good. Whether or not a product is natural is irrelevant in determining its safety or effectiveness. For example, many dangerous poisons are compounds that are found in nature. More on this when we discuss herbal medicines. Also, there is nothing natural about sticking needles all over the body. Woo-woo medicine systems tend to rely on ancient and natural remedies rather than modifying themselves in the wake of modern discoveries. They are mostly stuck in the past. I don't know of any woo-woo medical system which mentions viruses and bacteria in their original textbooks, mainly because when these were developed, people did not know about these organisms. In his excellent book Snake Oil Science, The Truth About Complementary and Alternative Medicine, R. Barker Bossell concludes that there is no compelling or credible evidence to suggest that any CAM therapy benefits any medical condition or reduces any medical symptom, pain, or otherwise better than a placebo. Edward Ernst is a retired academic physician and researcher specializing in the study of complementary and alternative medicine. He was a professor of complementary medicine at the University of Exeter. He has over 700 papers published in scientific journals. He has said that about 5% of alternative medicine is backed by evidence, with the remainder being either insufficiently studied or backed by evidence showing lack of efficacy. In 2008, Ernst and Simon Singh published Trick or Treatment: Alternative Medicines on Trial. The book evaluates the scientific evidence for acupuncture, homeopathy, herbal medicine, and chiropractic, and briefly covers 36 other treatments. It finds that the scientific evidence for these alternative treatments is generally lacking. Homeopathy is concluded to be completely ineffective, and I quote from the book, "It's nothing but a placebo, despite what homeopaths say." In the same year, Ernst sent an open letter urging the Royal Pharmaceutical Society of Great Britain to crack down on high street chemists who sell homeopathic remedies without warning that the remedies lack evidence for claimed biological effects. My plea is simply for honesty. Let people buy what they want, but tell them the truth about what they are buying. These treatments are biologically implausible, and the clinical tests have shown that they don't do anything at all in human beings. The argument that this information is not relevant or important for customers is quite simply ridiculous, unquote, he wrote. In a 2008 interview with Media Life magazine, when he and Simon Singh were asked this question, "What do you think the future of alternative medicine is?" they replied, "For us, there is no such thing as alternative medicine. There is either medicine that is effective or not, medicine that is safe or not. So-called alternative therapies need to be assessed and then classified as good medicines or bogus medicines. Hopefully, in the future, the good medicines will be embraced within conventional medicine and the bogus medicines will be abandoned." There is a spectrum of plausibility in the different woo-woos that are most used. The plausibility of homeopathy is essentially zero. Acupuncture has some plausibility. The underlying oriental concepts are implausible, but it is plausible that inserting needles in the skin could possibly cause physiological effects. The chances that herbal medicines could work is high. After all, the whole science of pharmacology was developed out of studying plants. About half of all the drugs that we use today are derived from plants, so herbal medicines might work, but they need to be individually tested just like any other drugs. Also, science does not use the entire plant or plant parts like herbal medicines. Modern medicine extracts only the active ingredient from a plant and use only that, and do not use any other plant alkaloids which can cause us harm. CAM proponents constantly criticize doctors with accusations like, "These doctors cut, burn and poison," referring to surgery, radiation and chemotherapy. Well, science-based treatment may have side effects, but they also save lives, which CAM doesn't. They say doctors only treat symptoms, not the underlying cause. And that is an outright lie. If you have pneumonia, for instance, doctors just don't treat your symptoms of fever and cough with paracetamol and cough syrup. They identify the underlying cause, which is a bacteria, and they kill it with antibiotics. CAMs, on the other hand, are people who treat symptoms. This is not a general statement. Check out how woo-woos are reacting to the current COVID-19 pandemic. While modern science identified that it was caused due to a virus and is fighting the disease using vaccines, woo-woos are just trying to build immunity. Talk about identifying the underlying cause and fighting it. Secondly, woo-woos have no test methods to find out what the underlying cause is. Testing methods are only available with modern science. The woo-woos must base their treatment either on the symptoms that the patients tell them or rely on test results from a modern medicine lab. The next one is the general statement that science tells one thing today and it tells another thing tomorrow. Well, that is one of the major hallmarks of science. It is self-correcting whenever it shows that something doesn't work. So, it discards it when something better comes up. They are not doing bloodletting anymore, and we have better scanning techniques like MRI and PET scans. So X-rays are slowly becoming obsolete. Around 400 plus medicines have been discarded due to negative side effects or because a better treatment was available. But have you heard of any herbal or homeopathic medicines being discarded ever since they were invented? If a scientific study appears to support a CAM treatment, they run around bragging about it and they cite it as a justification. However, if it shows that a CAM treatment doesn't work, they disregard the evidence and make excuses and say that their treatments are special and they are individualized for each unique person, so they can't be studied with randomized controlled scientific trials. Well, of course they can, as long as the studies are perfect and are properly designed. For instance, homeopaths could prescribe individualized remedies and someone else could randomly give the patient either what was prescribed or a placebo. So this way you can actually do a randomized controlled trial of homeopathy. But do they do that? Sorry, wrong number. Just a few words on placebo before I close. Most CAM practitioners, when faced with the challenge that their method of treatment is not better than placebo, say that we want people to feel better and placebos make people feel better. But there are problems with that argument. First, let me clarify one thing. The word placebo has two very different meanings and two very different settings in science-based medicine and woo-woo medicines. In science-based medicines, placebos are used in research setting for a control group in a placebo-controlled trial, and placebos may be used in clinical setting by giving it to patients in the case of woo-woo medicines. Although placebo is scientifically proven to provide relief, placebos have never cured any disease. I repeat, placebos have never cured any disease. Patients may report subjective improvement of symptoms like pain and nausea with placebos, but placebos have no effect on any objective measurements in a clinical setting. They do not improve survival from cancer or speed recovery from infections. It will not lower your cholesterol, reduce your risk of a heart attack, and so on. Some people believe placebos are really doing something when they say if treatment X were only a placebo, it wouldn't work on animals or small kids. Treatment X works on animals, so it must be more effective than a placebo. But there is a problem with that reasoning. Animals and small kids can't tell us how they feel. It is their owners or parents who have to interpret their behavior. And there can be placebo effects on the owner or parent. If they expected to see an improvement, they probably will. They may treat the animal or children differently, and animals and children respond to attention. So my conclusion is that placebos and treatments that work on the placebo effect are a waste of time and money, and the use of such treatment just delays a patient getting effective treatment. So what does woo-woo medicine need to do to get accepted? All they need to do is to prove that there is science in them using the scientific method. Prove it and then publish it in renowned science journals. Get them peer reviewed and get accepted. It is just as simple as that. But the reality is that they fail to do that in all reputed science-based studies conducted across the world. And that is because their basic premise, the very base on which they have been formulated, are unscientific. They don't have too much of a choice now. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you are a believer in one of the woo-woo medicines, you might have not liked the hard truths. Tough. If you have understood the scientific facts mentioned in this video and want others to benefit, please share this with your friends and family. In this next part of the series, we can take a look at one of the most famous woo-woo treatment system in the video titled Dilution Delusion. Keep guessing what it is going to be based on. Until then, it's bye-bye from Pale Blue Thoughts.